JT Meleck. So this is one that I had seen reviews on for their standard, their 90, I think it's 94, 96 proof. I found it here in Georgetown at one store. So every store that I've been to hasn't had it. But this is their cast strength offering. So
what is it?
I'll tell you in a minute. So it's 118 proof. They're a small, basically farm to bottle.
Like Frey Ranch.
Like Frey Ranch, yep. They're a farm to bottle distillery. What's interesting about this is not bourbon.
So no, it's classified as...
This is 100%...
handcrafted whiskey.
It's 100% rice whiskey.
Indeed.
And so you might think, like I did perhaps in the beginning when I saw the 90, let's call it 96, let's just settle on that. The 96 proofer running around, I'm like, rice whiskey? Like, I'm out. Now, it's not the first time people have used rice in their bourbons. So Little Book from, it's a bean product, so they use brown rice.
Really?
In the Little Book 4 that we have up there.
That makes sense. When I recall how nutty.
Yeah, very, very nutty, especially because I believe Little Book uses brown rice.
Yes.
So they leave the husk on. So from everything that I've read, that can lead to a more nuttier flavor profile, which you're already buying a bean product anyway, which is already going to be nutty. So this one in particular, it caught my attention because we were doing some whiskey hunting and I saw it at Cash Strength. I believe here in town it was $59.
Just about, maybe a little over 60.
Yeah, I think it was $59 before tax, and then the regular bottle, their standard offering.
It was $10 less.
It was $10 less. So I picked this up just because I thought it was interesting. I see anything at Cash Strength, I'm like, let's try it and see if it's any good.
Because if you're really fiending for a 96 proof, you could always throw a few drops of water in there.
Yeah.
Get a similar experience.
We talked about that.
Not exactly the same, but similar.
Correct. We talked about that the other day when I bought a backup bottle.
Yes.
Because we had tried this on.
And you tried to talk yourself into buying the lower proof offering. And I threw your own logic back at you.
And it made sense. So we just bought another bottle of the Cash Strength.
For emergencies.
So with this... So this company is interesting. So they're farmers, obviously. They grow their own rice. They have they grow crawfish. I don't know how you do that. Hence the crawfish.
Perhaps the proper term is raised
crawfish. Yeah.
I don't imagine it's like those plush or those foam things where you put water in them and then they grow bigger.
Probably not. Yeah. So that's what they do. From everything I read. We've drank it once before. I smelled it just now.
And you said 3 times over that night that you were blown away by this.
I really was. We'll try it again, and I won't go into it, but from what I've learned so far, they're using 53-gallon drums, 53-gallon barrels, like pretty much everybody else does.
It's the standard for a reason.
It's standard for a reason. What's interesting is in the rick houses, so most Kentucky distilleries, they've got like an 8-story rick house, right?
Yes.
So it's literally 8 stories tall, and they've got 8 floors.
As opposed to metaphorically 8 stories tall?
Correct. What these guys are doing, they're using basically like a pole barn setup, and they're doing a combination of palletized stacking or storing, which means that the barrels are on their small ends. But then some of the barrels they've got, and they're like traditional, they're on their sides.
And what have you found is the difference in that approach?
It's a good question.
What does it do?
Well, MGP does a lot of palletized. A lot of Kentucky distilleries do a lot of just traditional where they lay on their side. From the stuff that I've read, palletized, you can fit more barrels in a rick house. You do suffer a little bit with airflow because they're in so tight. Whereas if they're on their sides, you get less product in a rick house, but you get better airflow. What's interesting though is that in the photos that I saw, the stacking only goes about 3 barrels high. So whereas if you go like to MGP or whatever Buffalo Trace or Four Roses,
Well, that makes sense.
it's 80 feet tall.
These boys are operating on a smaller scale than MGP or
Correct.
Buffalo Trace.
Correct. So they're not stacking them very high, which is interesting, because when it comes to storing barrels, especially in Louisiana, just like in Texas, you got heat, you got humidity.
A lot of it.
And we've talked about it before. So if you're stacking at 80 feet tall, the barrels at the top are going to get a lot hotter.
Because heat rises.
Correct, than the barrels at the bottom. So the proof's going to go up typically at the top of the rick house. If it's at the bottom part of the rick house, it's not going to get as hot. So the proof's not necessarily going to go like skyrocketing up. So it's going to be really close to being around what the barrel entry proof is.
Yes.
These guys, their barrel entry proof is somewhere between 120 and 122 proof, which fits in the rules because it just has to go in less than 125. Now, I don't know if they're using, because it's not technically a bourbon, so it doesn't have to play into the same rules that bourbon does with, the 51% corn, the new charred oak barrels, all the things that I've talked to you just at nausea about before. So I don't know if they're putting this into used barrels. I know they're doing their own distillation, right? Because it's their rice.
It's rice.
I don't know if it's a brown rice or if it's a white rice that they use.
I would wager a white rice.
I would wager the white rice as well, because when we tried it.
There wasn't that nutty characteristic
Yeah,
to it.
a week or two ago when we first tried it, I got no nuttiness.
I believe the most remarkable tasting note that you had for this bottle upon first blush was that you got a lot of barrel char.
Yeah, well, let's quit talking about it. Let's get into it and smell it.
And we theorize that you got a lot of barrel char because it was lacking the regular sweetness of corn, and corn usually masks the barrel char, makes it play second fiddle.
It definitely can. Now, going back to it kind of fresh, I would almost say that they're using used barrels.
That's what I would wager.
Which would make sense, right?
It makes sense economically.
It's almost got like a double oak quality, like a Woodford double oak or an Old Forester 1910. It's got that sort of quality to it.
It's syrupy in that way.
Yeah, very syrupy. I mean, this has no corn, this has no rye, this has no malted barley. And it still smells amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is wild.
It goes to show there's a lot of variation when it comes to sticking alcohol distilled from whatever into a barrel.
Now, it does smell soft, so I'm going to assume they don't have a big gigantic column still. Mm-hmm. I'm going to assume they're using some sort of a pot still, I would think.
That makes sense. I imagine those are easier to keep and maintain.
Well, especially when you're doing it on a smaller scale.
Yeah.
Now, so full disclosure, I don't know what the distribution of this stuff is.
There isn't a lot of literature out about them.
There's not a ton of stuff about it. So I don't know if you're going to find it in California or Washington or whatever, Minnesota. I don't know. We're in Texas. We're right next to Louisiana.
But I would hope that this will become more prevalent.
Yeah, I really think the fact that this smells like this smells.
Let's quit beating around the bush.
Yeah, let's skull.
To your health. It's delicious.
Man, the proof is perfect.
And it really leans on that charred, almost smoky flavor because
you get, you get some of that oaky barrel char.
Indeed.
But now that I've had it and it's opened up for a week or two, now I'm really leaning on, you're getting almost like a double barrel finish.
Yes.
Where it's the rich,
which plays into your theory that it's used barrels.
Yeah, not new charred oak, yeah. Because that would help with, which is expenses.
Yes.
Right? If you don't have to buy brand new barrels and you can just buy used barrels. Because that's what's interesting. So if I don't know. I'm just guessing. So don't sue me.
If someone from the organization were to inform us, we'd be happy to.
Yeah, they would tell us otherwise.
Film an addendum.
Yeah, and to be fair, this is.
Give me that. You can't
see that batch. What's it? 325 on the back.
What are you looking for? Yeah, small batch number 325.
Yeah. But it would make sense though, that rice is so soft that if they're using double barrels, which would make sense why it's so sweet, because you're pulling all that used bourbon out of that barrel anyway while it's sitting in there. Now this is 4 years, so 4 years in Louisiana.
Which makes sense because it doesn't taste young.
No, not at
Because
all.
it's so damn hot in Louisiana.
It's hot. It's hot and humid.
Say, is it humid? Is it more humid and hot down there as opposed to here?
Yeah, it's more humid. Woo. It's more humid down there.
But it doesn't get as hot.
I don't know. I've never lived there, but it's probably no different than here. It's it's summertime. It's fun. But man, that is amazing. Like, to me, that's so good. If you like finished bourbons at all, and you can find this and you want to try something wildly different.
I do declare this is a remarkable bottle of
Yeah.
whiskey. I want them to have a different name for it. Because Louisiana handcrafted whiskey is... It's not very specific. I wish they called this bottle like the Crawfish Reserve or
Yeah.
something.
I get it, but for the legality part of it,
I get it.
they can't call it bourbon, they can't call it rye. It's not a single malt.
That's fine.
It's just one of those where it fits in its own little world, where it's just
Technically speaking, we would have to call this Louisiana handcrafted whiskey.
depending. Well, see, that's the thing. It depends because, like they did in Missouri with the Ben Holiday, or in Tennessee with the Jack Daniels and all the Tennessee whiskeys. The state has to come up with
Eventually.
the rules. Right.
Eventually, because Ben Holiday came before Missouri developed those rules, and Jack Daniels obviously came before.
Of course.
Tennessee developed.
Of course, and then to make it work, to get their little niche in the whiskey market. So I don't know.
Maybe Louisiana will claim this as their own.
Perhaps. Now I don't know how, if you make a traditional bourbon or a traditional rye, I don't know how it would work, but they do it here in Texas. But the fact that these guys are using rice, literally rice that they grow on their farm, and it's coming out this way, whatever they're doing is amazing. Obviously, as we talked about earlier, we had it one night, and then I think the next day I went out and bought another bottle.
It was the very next day.
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't care.
Had to get it back up.
Had to get it back up. So if you,
I really like this distillery. I want to see more from them.
I'd like to see him do some more.
So
Absolutely.
this is a fantastic first offering.
Yeah,
if this is the first and last word of what they do,
yeah, because
all power to
if I remember right, they got started in I think they started distilling and putting whiskey into barrels in 2018. So it hasn't been around very long.
It's a long process.
Yeah, and then it's a 4-year age statement. This at barrel proof is phenomenal. I'm so glad I bought it because I'd seen a review or two about the low proof offering, and it seemed interesting, but I'm a bourbon snob and I'm like,
A proof hound, you mean?
well, but I'm still a bourbon snob, and I'm like,
definitely.
it's not bourbon, it's rice
That's what
whiskey.
kept you away from rye whiskey for so long.
It did. Yeah, to be fair, it kept me away from rye whiskey. But we did an episode about the Michter's American. It's the same idea, and the Michter's American's phenomenal.
Yes, it is. And this new and innovative rice whiskey is phenomenal.
Yeah.
I hope that if not these distillers, I hope that rice whiskey becomes a more common thing to see, because it really allows the barrel to play a bigger role.
Well, that's the interesting part. Is I'd love to know if they're using white rice, which I'm guessing they are, because of how nutty the little book is that we have, where we know they're using.
And
brown
also,
rice.
we've cooked brown rice before. We know it's nuttier.
Yeah. So it's interesting, especially in Louisiana, that you can grow a bunch of rice there. It's really cool to see. So anyway, like I said, I don't know about how available this will be.
But if you can find it, buy it.
If you can find it, I would definitely buy it. Don't be afraid of rice whiskey. And then once again, like you told me the other day when I was going back and forth on buying buying a bottle of the low proof one, if 118 proof is too high, bring some water to the table, add it a little bit, proof it to where you like, and then
Indeed, give yourself the option to proof it down.
Absolutely. But this, as it sits, like I said, I sound like a broken record. So glad I bought it.
Say the name of the distillery one more time.
JT Meleck.
JT Meleck.
Yeah, they're phenomenal. Good job, guys.